The Arrowverse has been going on for 20 seasons now, and each one of these seasons has a season finale. There are some Arrowverse seasons that actually don't, like Constantine, where the season finale was never released, which is why that season is not counted in this or Seasons Ranked, because it's not a complete season. Anyway, regardless, in this video, I will be looking at every single season finale in the Arrowverse and ranking them from worst to best. I will also include a short review for each of these finales.
Even if you stop me, those missiles are finding their targets.
It won't just be me who's gonna stop you.
You brought friends. So did I.
Arrow Season 4 was not a good season, and as it turns out, the season finale wasn't good either. Damien Darhk was not a good villain, and the final fight between Oliver and Damien was just awful and incredibly anticlimactic. Literally all they did was punch each other. No choreography, no weapons, no cool stunts, no cool moves or anything. Literally they just took turns punching each other, and on top of that, the only reason this is actually able to happen without Damien Darhk just using his powers is because Oliver got powers himself, which is ridiculously stupid. I hate the fact that that happened. On top of that, this episode, Felicity and Curtis did a lot more to save the city and the world than Oliver did, which pisses me off. The only not terrible part of the episode was Oliver's speech, which was well acted, not exactly well written, but definitely well acted on Stephen Amell's part, and the episode just basically adds insult to injury that is Arrow Season 4, and thus is the worst season finale of the Arrowverse in my opinion.
If I defeat you, your invasion ends. You leave, once and for all. For the Earth. For the Earth.
Supergirl.
Although Supergirl Season 2 was definitely better than the first season, the actual season finale was worse. Rhea is a really bad villain, like just on par with Non in terms of the worst villains in the Arrowverse, and this episode just has the usuals of Supergirl, like bad action, bad effects, bad acting, and bad writing. Although the absolute worst thing about this episode is how they treat Superman. Not only does Superman lose to Supergirl in a fight, but Superman literally just says that Supergirl is better than him at every opportunity he can get. While I do really like this version of Superman, I absolutely hate how they treat him in terms of comparing him to Supergirl all the time and just bringing him down to elevate Supergirl, which I absolutely hate. And because of that, this is my least favorite season finale of Supergirl, and it's even worse than Season 1's finale.
We'll make Earth hell again.
How are we supposed to defeat fear itself?
Hey, world! We have to show the world that magical creatures are magical.
It's showtime!
Ban them all! Everyone remain calm! DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow kind of jumped the shark in its fourth season, and the ending was probably the worst part. The episode centers around the creation of Hayworld, which incorporates the magical creatures, and you probably already know, I absolutely hate those characters or those creatures. I absolutely hate them, and the fact that they are incorporated into the main storyline at the end, I hate that so much. Beyond that, the episode is so damn cheesy and looks really cheap, and definitely not a good way to use the final episode of the season at all. The villain goes out, like, very anticlimactically, and the episode basically cures death to anyone who is loved, which is great. Anyway, this episode is definitely a terrible season finale for Legends of Tomorrow Season 4.
I just don't know if I'll make it out alive.
Sit back and watch everyone around you die.
Tell your parents I said hello!
Tell them yourself!
Supergirl Season 1's finale was just as good as the rest of the season, so, not at all. Non is a terrible villain, and just the regular things, like I said earlier, for Season 2 that affect most of these two seasons, the action, the effects, the acting, the writing, and the characters are mostly really, really bad, and there's just nothing really interesting happening in this episode. Still, though, there isn't really much I hate about the episode, which is why it's higher than 18, 19, and 20, because those three finales, I do hate some part about it, while this, there's nothing really I hate about it. It's just generally not very good.
Sometimes the thing that goes against our very core is the one thing that we must do.
You cannot win.
Supergirl.
Season 3 of Supergirl kind of fell apart near the end of the season, and the finale was definitely hurt by that. The Argo characters, like Supergirl's mom being incorporated and the Dark Kryptonians, definitely bring down this episode, making it way more disappointing than it should have been, like compared to the rest of the season. And on top of that, the episode was just not nearly as memorable as it should have been, and it's pretty forgettable as an episode, making this episode not that much better than the other Supergirl finales, in spite of the fact that Season 3 of Supergirl is definitely a lot better than Season 1 and 2.
I wouldn't count on it.
He needs you guys, even if he doesn't think so.
No. Your name is outside him.
My name is Oliver Queen.
Arrow Season 3 is where Arrow started going downhill, and this episode in particular is where Arrow just went to shit. The final fight between Oliver and Ra's is really bad. It's well choreographed, but it's bad because they are both dressed in similar black costumes and at night, so it's really hard to tell who is who in the fight, and the fact that Oliver kills Ra's, a Batman villain who we've never even seen meet Batman before, really bothers me. It doesn't help that this episode ends with the worst season finale ending ever in the entire Arrowverse, where Oliver and Felicity drive off into the sunset in a kind of series finale kind of feeling that makes me want to barf.
You're too late.
Time Master's never late.
DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow Season 1 actually had a better finale than the rest of the season was in terms of quality. Sure, Vandal Savage is still a pretty bad villain, and the way they killed him, which, by the way, killing Vandal Savage should not be possible any way at all, but the way they did that was kind of stupid and ridiculous and pretty hard to follow. That aside, I don't really have many problems with this episode, and I absolutely loved the cliffhanger, which got me extremely excited for the second season, in spite of the quality of the first.
Get my consciousness inside the boat.
Barry? What do you see? What's around you?
You're in my mind now. And there's no escape.
Barry! He's coming for us.
Run, Mr. Allen. Run.
The Flash.
This finale was definitely very disappointing and underwhelming, and it could have been a lot better. Barry going into DeVoe's mind to defeat him was kind of stupid and insanely underwhelming considering DeVoe's powers, which weren't used in his mind at all. Just imagine like a battle between Team Flash and the Thinker Nowadies played by Neil Sandilands. Again, it would have been so awesome. Like maybe they can go and have like some sort of plan to defeat him, and then Clifford DeVoe gets overwhelmed or something. I think that they really wasted his powers in this finale. Although Ralph returning was pretty cool and I really liked the satellite scene and the end cliffhanger, I still think that this finale was pretty disappointing to a season that I generally liked a lot more than a lot of people, and a villain that I really liked when he was played by his actor Neil Sandilands, which he was in this episode.
Today, I become a god.
This crown, don't need it anymore.
The Flash Season 3 is my least favorite season of The Flash, but the actual season finale is just a little bit better than Season 4's. Still though, it isn't great. The whole paradox thing with Savitar makes no sense. Savitar's plan comes out of nowhere. Killer Frost kills Black Flash, which was stupid. Iris shoots Savitar, which is stupid, and the HR Iris death swap thingy was just ridiculous and very predictable and really stupid. That being said, the fight between the three Flashes and Savitar was really cool, and I enjoyed this finale just a little bit more than Season 4's, even though the season isn't as good as a whole.
Everything I've done has been strategic to lead up to this very moment.
I have to stop him.
Soon, Supergirl will be dead. And nothing can stop me.
Supergirl.
By far the best Supergirl finale ever. The Quest for Peace is a lot better than the movie it's named after, although I've never seen it. I've just heard it's really, really bad. This finale is one of the 3 episodes of the entire show to feature the greatest Supergirl villain ever and one of the best villains in the entire multiverse, Lex Luthor, who not only single-handedly makes this episode as high as it is, but also single-handedly makes this season an actual good season. Although there are some bad fight scenes and effects and stuff, and I really don't like Agent Liberty in this episode, it's just the I did it my way away scene that I absolutely love. It's without a doubt the greatest scene ever on Supergirl, or at least not including crossovers, and I also really like the crisis tease is at the end. That being said, it seems like they used their entire budget on that I Did It My Way scene, which made the rest of the episode kind of look like shit, but honestly it was kind of worth it because this scene alone and the character of Lex Luthor alone makes this episode easily the best season finale of Supergirl and almost cracking the top 10.
This could get messy.
Instead of finding the hero that is inside of you, you went down a dark path. If you're gonna kill me, do it.
Arrow season finale.
You Have Saved the City is an amazing title for a season finale of this show, especially one that has such a series finale feel, and that feel definitely works really well for the episode. It brings out some great emotion through the scene near the end where Stephen Amell gives a pretty great performance. The fight scenes are pretty good, and there is some great action as well. On top of that, everything that deals with setting up the crisis and the reveal of the deal between Oliver and the Monitor, it's just really great and really exciting. That being said, the only reason this finale is not a lot higher is because the final conflict between the Ninth Circle and Team Arrow, and especially the Green Arrow and the Red Arrow, falls completely flat, and they end up being the worst villains on the show ever, in spite of the pretty great fight scenes surrounding this whole conflict.
Gideon, fire!
Isn't that adorable? DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
This episode does a great job of finishing up the season's storyline and the main villains. Reverse Flash is just awesome in the episode, and both the action and writing is really top notch, and the way they use time travel in the episode I really like. I don't really have many issues with this episode at all. It's a lot of fun. It does a great job of concluding the season and also setting up the next one.
An army of Romans, Vikings, and pirates. But you know what today is? Today is the day. Attack! We earn the name Legends.
DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow peaked in Season 3, and this finale solidified this season as the show's best. Mullis and the Bebo fight looks amazing, especially for the small budget that they have. It's a lot of fun, there are some really epic moments, and it does a great job at concluding the season-long storyline. My only problem with the episode is Rip's kind of out-of-nowhere, half-assed death. Other than that, I genuinely love this episode, and I had a lot of fun with this finale.
For this nightmare to end, we're not gonna let metahumans die.
This is all my mistake, and I'm not gonna make another one.
You took my family away from me. Now watch me take yours.
Flash Season 5 has its ups and downs, but the last third or so is entirely a part of the up section. The season does an incredible job at setting up the season-long storyline with Thawne and his connection to Cicada and Nora and Barry. The final fight between Team Flash and Cicada isn't great, and she ends up being a mediocre villain, but after that, the episode becomes pretty amazing. Reverse Flash's plan comes to fruition in one of the most epic moments in the entire season, and the following confrontation between Reverse Flash, Flash, and XS was genuinely awesome. In the speedster race, the Reverse Flash taunting, and the rivalry between Thawne and Barry, it's just so damn good. On top of that, the crisis tease at the end is also a great way to end the season and set up that crisis. My only problem with the episode is that Nora's death isn't sad enough. Grant and Candace were great in the scene, but Jessica Parker Kennedy's acting and the lack of music just didn't work for the scene at all. But other than that, I genuinely loved this episode and thought it was a great ending to this season.
Easy.
This is my city!
There's enough explosives in here to send us into orbit.
You got 5 seconds! 5! Move! 4!
It's a trap.
3!
I'm gonna kill you.
1!
Arrow season finale.
The season kind of started getting good near the end and ended surprisingly well with this episode. The fight scenes are pretty awesome, and the rivalry between Oliver and Diaz is actually pretty good. Not at its best and not great, but definitely a pretty good rivalry in the end. Quentin Lance's death is definitely one of the saddest in the universe, not really in the actual death scene, but in the scene before where Oliver and Quentin just talk, which was definitely very well acted and written and definitely was incredibly emotional. The episode also ends with a pretty awesome kind of game-changing cliffhanger with Oliver's identity being revealed, and another cliffhanger that set up one of the best storylines ever on this show, with Oliver going to prison.
Oh my God.
He cannot be stopped. What did you do?
He's being erased from existence.
Who are you?
It's me, Mom. It's Barry.
I don't love the story of the episode because I think it's pretty damn stupid and makes no sense, but I do absolutely love the final confrontation between Barry and Thawne. The scene where Barry meets his mom, where he travels back to the past, is incredibly well acted and is pretty heartbreaking, and they somehow made the death of a character who's been dead for, 15 years at that point, actually incredibly sad, like one of the saddest ever in the entire universe, and the ending is pretty damn hype, making it easier and easier to ignore the faults of this episode, but I don't love the entire story, which is why I think it's actually not the best season finale of The Flash.
Don't race him.
And wait for him to kill somebody else? No. I want him to suffer for everything that he's done.
You want revenge? If that's why you're doing this, you will lose. The Flash.
I really don't think this finale gets enough credit. Henry's death is one of the saddest, the fight scene / races between Flash and Zoom are really great, and the episode is really intense. The Man in the Iron Mask reveal was not only pretty surprising, but also did a great job at setting Barry up to completely lose it and create one of the most hype cliffhangers in the Arrowverse ever, if not the most in my opinion, where Barry saves his mother. Sure, Flashpoint didn't end well, but that doesn't change the fact that I remember loving this episode and getting so excited when it ended, and so excited to see what this show would do going into season 3, making this, in my opinion, the best season finale of The Flash.
I'm done playing your games. You are done. When I say you're done. Arrow.
The top 3 in this list are all from Arrow, and that's just because I think Arrow just in general does season finales a lot better than the rest of the shows. That being said, the worst season finale on this list is also Arrow, so maybe that isn't exactly true. Still though, Unthinkable was a perfect ending to the conflict between Slade and Oliver. The fight scenes were amazing, and the parallels or cuts between the past and present were a genius way to end both storylines. I don't love all the Felicity stuff, and the fact that Felicity essentially was the one who defeated Slade in the end, or at least partially, really bothers me, but this is still a great season finale and a great ending to one of the best seasons of the Arrowverse ever.
The people of the city. It's kind of a hero.
Are you ready to die?
Arrow.
Arrow Season 1's finale was maybe the most perfectly handled ending to a season that actually ended up being a great way to end the season. The final conflict between Oliver and Merlin is epic. The structure of the episode and the way they handle everything, like the flashbacks and all the storylines and the conflict between these two characters and everything that's happening, is so intense, and the episode just feels like a non-stop thrill ride that ends with both the saddest death in the Arrowverse ever, where Tommy Merlin is killed. It works so well because of the relationship that's built up between Tommy and Oliver in this season, and the music in the background is so good, and also one of the most epic cliffhangers and endings ever to a season, with the Glades being left in ruins. I absolutely love this episode. I cry every single time I watch the episode because of Tommy's death. I get so excited watching it, and it just has such a great ending that I think it's the second best season finale ever in the Arrowverse, and it was only surpassed by one season. This was the first finale ever, and was only ever surpassed in the entire Arrowverse once with
you, kid. Hello, Oliver. If you want to get your son back, you know what you have to do. I have no interest in this being a fair fight.
This is probably no surprise to anyone, but in my opinion, the best season finale of the Arrowverse ever is without a doubt Leon Yu, the season finale to Arrow Season 5. This episode surrounded the greatest main hero / main villain rivalry ever for any one given season of the Arrowverse. Deathstroke and Merlin were returning, Oliver seemed like he was getting pretty desperate, and the season has been pretty good for the most part, so this episode looked like it was going to be pretty good no matter what, but they somehow surpassed my pretty high expectations with the actual episode. The action was incredibly intense, the acting and writing was top notch, Deathstroke was really badass, Merlin's death worked perfectly and it was pretty emotional, the intensity was unparalleled, and the conflict between Oliver and Adrian is pretty exhilarating to watch. And as if this episode wasn't awesome enough, the episode ended in the most unexpected and insane way ever, with Adrian killing himself and blowing up Leon Yu. Now sure, the conclusion to this was basically nothing, which pisses me off, and the episode does have an illicity kiss, but I refuse to let those things diminish what is, in my opinion, the greatest episode of television the CW has ever created, and I doubt it will ever be surpassed, except for maybe one of the episodes, probably the last one, of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So anyway, let me know your list in the comments down below, and what do you think about this video. If you want to see more videos like this, like one of them where I rank all of the season finale cliffhangers, you can check all those videos out in the top right corner of the video, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.